Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Scott Long,
And I'm Lewis Barnes. Glad to be here.
and tonight we're going to have, as Lewis mentioned, a candid conversation about race in Safety Harbor. This past few weeks, even month, has been very difficult for our community as we continue to have a conversation this community has been dealing with since 103 years it's been around, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So tonight, no call to action, no preaching. Tonight, we're just asking you to listen. And hopefully we'll encourage you to have some more of these conversations with folks you know and folks you don't know. That's even more important, right?
Yes.
And feel free to post comments and questions in the comment section, and towards the end of the hour, we will address some of those questions. But in the meantime, we're just two guys here talking about the race in Safety Harbor, past, present, and future, which is really the most important thing now, right?
Right.
All right, so Lewis, we got so much I know we want to talk about tonight, right? But
I'll say the first, since we with so much commotion and division about it, we probably should discuss maybe the Black Lives Matter sign on City Hall property.
that's really what got us together, right?
That's what started a lot of this. I mean, the sign has turned out to be a blessing. It's created some awareness and some dialogue. The whole statement behind Black Lives Matter is it's a civil rights movement. It's been a willing ignorance not to understand that, which I get. So it's time to move on from. I don't want to say it's time to move on from it, but my next move is no racism or anti-racism should be our next focus going forward. Um, yes, it's a little disappointing getting a sign, having it on there, but at the same time removing it. We've also in our black community had some signs that was burglarized that just showed some real ugliness, and we're awake, and that's the thing. You've turned on the light. We're alive. We know it exists, and now let's talk about it and do something about it.
Yeah.
I must say, just to some of our city officials, met with Mr. Clint Merce yesterday. Great conversation. Just basically, just trying to have a one-on-one of getting him to understand our views. Just from a different culture, and I appreciate him being so open to and willing to do that. Same thing with you, Scott. There's some others I can mention. I mean, there was a lot of negative about the sign, but there was a lot of positive about this sign as well. So that's one thing I must say. But it's a struggle. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people willing to listen. There's a lot of people willing to help and bridge the gap. And that's what we're here for, is to talk about that, bridging the gap. And how do we bridge that gap? We don't know, and
Wish we did, right?
yes.
It'd be a whole lot easier. So I'm sure our paths may have crossed in the 19 years I've lived here. You've lived here almost your entire life, but where I first really got to know you was the Safety Harbor Community.
Prayer vigil. Yep.
Yeah, the Unity Vigil. And
Yes.
Unity was an important word, I thought, in that.
Yes.
And that was back in May. And I told you this before, but I mean, a lot of what you said that day went straight to my heart. So I really appreciated that. And that's kind of why I reached out to you, and I wanted to get to know you a little bit better. So one thing in particular, and I think it might be good to frame this conversation tonight. I remember you saying, we've all been at home watching TV since April, since the George Floyd murder and protest and riots and all that. And I remember you saying that day, like, I know I need to do something. I don't know what it is, but I know I need to do something. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about those emotions. And
so that whole drive was due to my son, who's 11 years old, and sweet little kid. Yes, he knows color, but at the same time he doesn't see it, and he loves white, black, everybody just so wholeheartedly. And that was the hard part for me, was him not understanding of, like, Dad, like, why did that happen? And we've video cameras, phones, we've came so far, A lot of these things have been happening, but we never had video proof or the technology that we have now to display some of these things. Trayvon Martin, that whole situation probably could have been caught on video, and it's a different outcome. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what triggered me, just watching a man just die in the distress that he did. Just kind of triggered me. I didn't know what to do, but at the same time, um, watching the violence, the rioting, the media was almost making the whole Black Lives Matter and the protests so ugly that we were losing the reason of why. You know what I mean? And that's what was the reason I wanted to do the unity rally, was because I knew it was a lot more people that knew that was wrong than thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to say anything and just, let that slide. So I took a unity rally and I wanted to do it in the lights of prayer because in 90 or 99% of most religions is love. Right. Love thy brother. You know what I mean? And it's the lack of love is what people's lacking in their hearts is what we need to get. And if we just had just a little bit more compassion, I'm sure things will start to thrive and change and evolve. Um, we're close, and that was one of the reasons. Like growing up for me, it was like we idolized Martin Luther King, you idolized John Lewis, and some of these other guys, Malcolm X, and other people that was involved in just certain civil rights movements, and the courage that it took. I think about it. Some of these guys, out there in their 20s, saying, hey, I'm going to put, the city or put this nation of people on my back and willing to, fight for that. That's the courage I didn't have, but now I have it. You know what I mean? And now I have a better understanding of just life and work and just the world and what everybody should be included in on. And so that prayer rally was to bring us together, and it's still the whole Black Lives Matter sign was to bring us together. But what? So what? It created awareness. So it created some dialogue. Doesn't mean that we still cannot unify this thing. And it's about establishing these bridges with people I don't know. A lot of people never met Scott. Me and Scott met. I want to say a month ago when he asked me to read the Constitution for us, and we did that for the 4th of July, which was an awesome movement. But at the same time, he was one of the people that was listening in on these meetings, just seeing how divided the town got. And he was like, he just reached out to me and said, hey, Lou, I like to talk to you. And that was like the biggest thing. And that's what's been the most refreshing thing is some of the people that I don't even know being willing to talk to me and just understand and listen, But it has to be more than just me, It has to be more than just you, Scott. We need more willing to. I mean, we got a beautiful community here where it is diverse. I'm looking at a black coach, female coach, two white Caucasian girls, and that's beautiful. That's what it's supposed to be. There's no animosity. There's no labels on that. But my view is, for me, the way I'm seeing it, I see a coach and two players. How somebody else views that, they may see a black woman and two white girls. That's the part. That's what we got to move on from, and that's that. But these these awkward conversations is what's going to help us move.
So one of the things that I think is important. I mean, we're here at Daisy Douglas Park here next to the Lincoln Highlands, across from Brooklyn. And do you want to talk a little bit about the history of these neighborhoods and
Yeah, so one of the first neighborhoods that ever come about was Brooklyn. Whether anybody knows it or not, Brooklyn was one of the first to come about, and it was one of the last neighborhoods to actually have city plumbing. And how sad is that?
Relatively recently too. I think it was like 80s, even 90s maybe.
Yes. Yeah. And the whole, I kind of talked to Scott about this before. The Lincoln Highlands it was found by the owner of Gulf Machinery, who was moving from liquidating his company from Pensacola and migrating and moving it down to Safety Harbor, which Gulf Machinery was probably over 50 years on 590 forever. And now I think it's just a shell. And if you look at most manholes in the state of Florida, it's going to be stamped Clearwater, Florida, or Safety Harbor, Florida, Gulf Machinery. For those who don't know what manholes is, it's pretty much a sewer cap that you see in the middle of a street. But yeah, that's a lot of history. So with that being said, this owner bought this property, Lincoln Highlands, in in order to secure it for his employees that were choosing to come down and work for him in Clearwater. And that's kind of how the whole Lincoln Highlands subdivision started. Then we had what started from there. You had a black community from Clearwater start the migration to Safety Harbor, and here you go. So you have over 100+ years of black history, with this. Daisy Douglas, she was a big fixture in our neighborhood. Same thing, the Maddie Williams Center, who is named after Maddie Williams. Same thing, another awesome lady for us. And her husband has done a lot of things. He's kind of always been behind the scenes, but he's been a pillar in our community. Um, the history, Safety Harbor. We also had one of the first commissioners, black commissioners in Pinellas County, Mr. Blackshear. Um, and on a side note too, as well, he also had a cross burnt in his yard as well. So Safety Harbor has had its issues, from being on the wrong side of the tracks to being served out of the hole in the wall at Wilson's. We've had our struggles, but at the same time, we're still here. There's still growth, um, and we just got to keep this motion going. Um, we're going to start with telling some story or more stories about it, and I'm going to share one. So it was one that was for me, and it was growing up, and this is just talk about, and never, I would say, and I don't support defunding no police or anything like that. We have awesome cops, but at the same time, there's some bad people out there, whether they're in a uniform or not. So, I mean, it is what it is. But for the most part, so me being 14 years old, I was a sophomore in high school. I'm riding with actually, he was a mixed kid. He was Argentinian. He was white. So he's dropping me off in my neighborhood. We're just coming from a party, and this kid was dealing with already a medical issue. All right, and the medical issue was he had broken his jaw boxing, so his mouth was wired shut. Um, so we're pulling into Lincoln Highlands neighborhood, 7th Street, and officer pulls behind us. He has a nice car. Um, he asks him to show a license and registration. We fully cooperate. Then he asks us to get out the car, and we're like, why? Me being afraid, being black, um, and this is a time of the night or the time in the morning is like 2 or 3 in the morning where nobody's around. So in fear, I cooperated. Same thing. In fear, my buddy cooperated. So we get out of the vehicle, and officer proceeds to continue talking to my friend. And my friend is, he's mumbling. He's like, "What are you joking?" Thinking like he's playing with me. He's like, "No, my mouth." And he's like, then he looks over at me. He's like, "What's his problem?" Like his mouth is wired shut. And from there, it was just a bunch of confusion. So we had an officer that was overly aggressive, and a kid that was just trying to understand, like, hey, I can't talk. And so something that escalated to, okay, just checking a normal check, turns into, uh, he never got tased, but he got maced. Um, he got arrested. He actually got charged with battery on a Leo, which is a battery on a law enforcement officer, if you don't know. And he was facing some major time. So as all of this is going on and I'm witnessing it, I'm in awe and I can't say anything all because do I get beat up with my friend, or do I try to be safe and escape and make it home so I can at least tell his parents? So, and that's what happened. So I escape, I get home, I tell my mom, I tell my dad, I tell his, we related to his family. By that time, they met him at Countryside Meats, which he was hospitalized with another broken jaw because it was separated just from just all the excessive force. Time passes, and well, not time passes, but he gets charged, and now it's time for me to testify. And one of the hardest things was for me to do, and even for my parents, is like, okay, I'm going to allow my black son to go up here and testify, uh, you know, against white police officers. My parents was totally against it. But for the love I had for my friend, it was more about, man, I don't want him to go to jail, um, and, I didn't care. It was like what was right. And I did what was right, so we testified. Long story short, charges were dropped. We moved on, and still to this day, my friend suffers from, just post-traumatic issues that happened all the way back from when he was 4. Well, we were 14 and I was 14 and he was 16. So, but just those are slights that happen in life. Same time, a lot of people wouldn't understand going into a department store um, and just being followed. And it's not fair. You don't know why you're being followed. A lot of times I'm upset. So that's the thing about it. I've been, for instance, and I can say it, but there was a store, so I go into this department store where my wife had just bought me actually a wallet, and it was a wallet, Coach wallet, beautiful wallet, loved it, except they didn't desensorize the thing. So we go into this department store. I spend whatever, over $300 with them, getting ready to walk out the door. Beep, 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 beep. First thing the store clerk does is points the finger at me. It's you. And I'm like, wait a minute now. You just see me walk through the store where security, first thing, and I asked for a manager. I said, so I asked for a manager. And it's like, manager comes on down, say, well, this is totally unacceptable. Just to point the finger at me like this. I understand mistakes happen, but and I was a little embarrassed. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, no one deserves that type of conviction in the beginning of something. And then once we worked it out, then this department store, after talking to their regional manager and some threats, they want to overwhelm you with gift certificates, and it's like appreciate that you spent them, but I appreciate it, but it was more what that employee done and what is your protocol to fix that. That's right. We have to be a bit more responsible than that. So
it's not just apologizing; it's learning so it doesn't happen again. Right?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So,
did you have other stories from? The reason I ask is I think we got a lot to talk about, obviously, right, about this, but I think one of the things that we all make assumptions in these discussions, right? And sometimes that's a bad thing. Sometimes it's right, but I would say my assumption from the 19 years I've lived here is that if folks don't see racism, they don't think it exists, right?
Right.
So, and as segregated as these neighborhoods are, there might be stuff happening here that doesn't happen downtown or in other neighborhoods. So, and if people knew about that, then I think maybe their minds might be a little bit different. So, are there recent things that folks have been telling you that maybe not be like that shocking racism, but
no, but I would say the biggest thing, like for me, that we just really experienced was the whole burglarizing of the signs.
Right.
So we had some signs on 7th Street posted near the road where somebody, was trying to make a statement and burglarized all the signs. That was the most recent hate that we have dealt with, abruptly up in our face. And like I said, they're awakened. So you got our attention now. But how do we fix this? You know what I mean? Or what do we do next? What's the next move? Is like really the plan. So I mean that would have been the last one, but everything else, it's the stories of the community. This conversation, like we said, was just going to be candid. I didn't come with a lot of bullets to basically. It's not about beating up the oppressor. You know what I mean? It's about just bringing some awareness. We know we got problems, we got issues. Hearing them, it's a given. If you look at downtown right now, you have all of these vast, this amount of black citizens, but you never see us downtown. You never see us at Waterfront Park, and that's been my issue. I just trying to find a connection of why or reasoning of why, and it's kind of that analogy I gave to you to where it was something I can't remember. I think it's like a where you had a child living in a house. So kid's been living in this house all of this time, and he's been walking past this door all of his life, and the door has always been closed. And then all of a sudden, this door is actually open, but the kid's been so used to just looking straight and never looked, and come to find out that wow, it's a beautiful playhouse. You know what I mean? And I think that's where we're at. It's some generational issues we need to overcome as well within our black community. But at the same time, there's some generational issues that we need to overcome in our white community too, as far as acceptance and welcoming and whatever else you want to tell them.
Yeah, well, no, I mean that's a good segue to what we had on our notes, like words, and I know we talked about words the last time we met. So for me, reading all these comments on Facebook these last couple of weeks has been, obviously heartbreaking for me. I think it has been for you. Probably has been hopefully it's been for a lot of people, right? Because people say that's not the Safety Harbor that we know, right?
Absolutely.
But maybe it is. I don't know. I hope it's not. But a couple words that I would like to talk about. One that I saw in those comments that I thought was thrown around probably a bit too much was racist, and we talked about how horrible that word is. No one wants to be called that, right?
Right.
Whether you are or not, right? You don't want to
Right.
be called that. And to be honest, that shoe fits some people, right? So I'm not saying it doesn't, but I did see it, in my opinion, used for people that just simply disagree. Right? And that shuts down the conversation real quick, and that's the last thing we want is to shut down a conversation. We want to encourage conversation.
Absolutely.
Right? But conversely, another term that I think we don't talk about enough is white privilege, and I think it's got a negative connotation, right? Because again, I don't think any white person wants to be told that they have white privilege, right?
Right.
So
it's uncomfortable.
But I think if I've learned anything these last couple of months, it's that again I've lived here 19 years, and for the better part of that, I would get in my car in my mostly white neighborhood up in Harbor Woods Village. I would drive right past Lincoln Highlands, Brooklyn, this park that we're in right now.
Right.
See only black people here. On my way downtown, where I saw only white people, right?
Right.
And I always knew that there was something about that, right?
Right.
It's not right. I mean, I should have asked. I should have inquired as to what it is and tried to educate myself, but I chose not to, right?
Right.
I didn't do it purposely, but I chose not to, and so therefore I never learned the lessons here until the last couple of years when I got involved with the African American Cemetery here and got a real good education,
Okay.
right? So the fact those 14, 15 years that I drove by here, to me that's a definition of white privilege and white privilege that I have that I need to own up to, and I would assume a lot of white folks in this town too do the same thing. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, doesn't mean you're racist, but it also means that you didn't do enough to educate yourself, right?
Right.
And that's the issue I think we're in now, right? Is when you saw a couple cardboard signs.
Yeah.
Really, that's what they were. A couple cardboard signs caused all this mayhem.
Right.
And there were a lot of issues, and we could spend hours talking about all the issues, but I think one of them was that a lot of us were privileged enough to not have to ask about these neighborhoods, not ask about our city's history on
Right.
racism and how it's been passed down. So it seemed like a kick in the gut, right? A kick in the teeth. And
Right.
you know, why are you bringing this big city
Why are you bringing
Black
this?
Lives
Yeah,
Matter
yeah,
organization to
yeah.
our happy city,
Right.
right? When really the city isn't all that happy,
Right.
right? And a couple things I'll say, and then I'll let you go on and talk about this. But the lessons I learned from the cemetery and talking to folks, a couple things that really, really opened my eyes. One, you know, part of the cemetery, there's so many people buried there that we don't know. The gravestones are gone.
Yeah.
And so the woman who's heading this up actually was knocking on doors in the neighborhood, asking, you know if you have any relatives there, help us out. And she was told, hey, we don't want to remember that cemetery. That was a time in our history that we want to forget.
Yeah.
And that is weird to think
scary.
that your relatives are there and you
Yeah.
don't want it. That's how serious it was. That's the first thing that hit home. And then the other thing was what you mentioned is just not feeling comfortable going downtown. That's just so weird to me. You know, I had a black friend that used to come to town all the time, and we'd go down. She loved to go downtown, and never had any problems. So to me, to reconcile that there are folks in this community that feel uncomfortable going down there.
Right.
And you know, we did a fundraiser for the cemetery, and the first couple years we did it in Lincoln Highlands, and this year we did it downtown. And the conversations I was hearing was like, we don't want to go downtown. Why are you making us go downtown? And again, it's just so hard for, I think, folks like me, and not just white, but folks that aren't part of this community to understand that. So I don't know if you want to talk about that or help explain it. Or
the thing about it, like I said, it was more of that analogy I gave you is generational. And I think what it's going to take is just more awkward conversations of this, is people understanding or just being a little bit more welcome or understanding of different cultures. You know what I mean? We're Safety Harbor. I mean, not only is white and black, but man, we have a strong Latino base, and Asians are definitely starting to make a presence as well. So, you know, we got to be diverse in whatever we do that involves downtown or any kind of community involvement. I think that's the biggest thing, is just being inclusive on all facets of that. It's going to take time. I can't just say and put one thing on it. I mean, it's probably many reasons. If I go door to door and ask someone why they don't go downtown, there's reasons, and it's just going to take dialogue. It's going to take engagement, and that's what we're working on here on trying to accomplish. And I think we're doing a solid job. When it comes to, you know, when you have mentioned white privilege, it's more of people acknowledging that the whole white privilege exists. If you acknowledge that it exists, I think the bridge to understanding, you know, the whole equality, human equality concept is easier to grasp, you know. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. I mean, it's just going to take more dialogue. It's going to take, Scott, you and I not talking, and somebody who doesn't understand white privilege to have an awkward conversation with either another white person or another black person who gets it. You know, but you know, this is the dialogue, and our kids give us hope. You know, we know. You know, when we see kids running around, black, white, or whatever, their joy and their interaction, there ain't no color barrier.
Right.
You know, that's my buddy.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday I introduced my son to somebody, my son's friend to someone. I was like, this is my son Jalen. This is one of his best friends, Eric. And, you know, he goes, no, I am the best. I am the best friend, you know. And I thought that was pretty cool. And, like, here it is, you know, a white kid saying, hey, my son is his best friend. And I love that. You know, another thing about white privilege is you want to think is just something. So, you know, we got all of this. We talk about, you know, black, white in our community. We talk about Asians. But does anybody even consider the mix or the interracial relationship? what kind of conversation are they having now? Whether your husband is white and your wife is black, or vice versa, your husband's black and your wife's white. How is that conversation? I don't know. Is there any forms for them? Where do you find balance as a parent um, to hone that, or or do you just teach them love and let it go? And that's the key, love. And uh, being white and black, I think you got the best of both worlds. It's like, man, it's you get to use both cards. It's like, oh, why not? I mean, it's a great option, but at the same time, I think you're the mixed generation is what's good about America too. It's that's the new stability and on where we're going, because you see a lot more mixed cultural relationships out here. And speaking of white privilege, so even in my prayer unity, I'm going around and I'm like, hey, wait, it's not Black Lives Matter. This is a unity to come together, and I'm being judged in front of these, pastors and leaders of a thing, and it makes you wonder, or it makes you think. And I threw this question at a buddy of mine, and I was like, does people honestly think heaven is going to be segregated? You know what I mean? So whatever your religion is, if you're thinking there's another world, it was the love. You're right here. Your purpose is to love that man here, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. And I try to live it every day, or live it to the fullest. Sometimes I struggle. Sometimes I come up short. Sometimes I can blame the devil. The devil made me do it. But for the most part, I try to live wholeheartedly, and I show whoever it is so much respect that or love that you have to come back with the same amount. And if you don't, you're just someone who just don't like people, and that's fine. Yeah. And we're gonna have that. Everybody's not gonna like each other, and you're not supposed to like everybody, but you are supposed to love or respect that person. Yeah.
Another thing you mentioned last week when we talked, and it was interesting because I've heard somebody else say it within the last week, but I heard it first on the TV show ER. I don't know if you watched that. That was back in the 90s, right? Yeah. So 20-some years ago, people were talking about this. But there was a character on there, Dr. Benton, who's a very strong black doctor, and he was counseling a young black intern, right? And he told him, he's like, you're black, you have to work twice as hard as a white person to get the same amount of respect.
Yeah.
And that it was a fictional TV show, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that hit me pretty hard, right? And so to hear that when we were talking, and this other person I was talking to say the same thing now, 22 years, um, obviously some things have changed, but some things haven't changed, right? So I think that's a white privilege thing as well, too, to just go out and do what we want to do and be judged fine, while somebody else feels like, whether it's right or wrong, again, perception or reality, but you feel like you have to work twice as hard to get the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's a challenge.
And that was kind of my upbringing. I mean, that's why I'm here today. That's I had my grandfather. Like I said, he was a career war veteran, two Purple Hearts, but he instilled manners into me. Please, thank you, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. All of that was embedded in me. But at the same time, he told me, um, you need to prepare yourself to be 3 times as better as your competition. And that was always my deal. So regardless of what I do, whether it was sweep the floor, you swept the floor as good as anybody could. You cleaned as good as anybody could. Homework wise, and that was always my thing. Handwriting, try to be as neat as anybody, as anybody in the class, and that was always my goal. You know what I mean? Yeah, I came up short on a few things, but for the most part, my shortcomings were not by far any letdowns or underachievements for me. So I do look at it like that. But yeah, that is something, it's something that's taught, and should that actually be taught? Should you actually have to teach your kid to do, oh, well, you got to do 3 times as much? Because when you go into this, this world, hey, it's going to be 5 other guys with less than what you can, but because you're black, um, your credentials had to be that much more, in order to get considered.
Um, so what do you think has changed over the time? I mean, you told me a good story about your father talking to you about high school when you went, and you talking to your son about high school when he went. You all went to the same high school, right? But had different experiences. So, um, and things have gotten better, but
Absolutely.
they're still not where they need to be, right? So,
Right.
what do you think has changed, and what do you think has been the reason for it? Because I think right now we're looking for that holy grail, right? Of
Yeah.
finding that thing
Yeah.
that's going to help us get to that next
Yeah.
step. So,
And I think what has changed is mindsets. We have had, if you think about, the Civil Rights Act signed 63, 65, it just took some traction. So, but it's so sad that, it was signed 63, 65, whatever my dad was born in 49, so whatever, he kind of missed it. But he dealt with a lot of, um, he never did make it to a segregated school. He graduated from Pinellas County High. A lot of people don't even know the high school, but I was the only black high school in Pinellas County at one time. But yeah, so it was those type of issues where he never dealt with segregation. I mean, never dealt with integration. So for me, it was more of where he dealt with a lot of rioting and racial fights just in his high school time. Um, it was a little less. A little for me, it was just not as much. We had one racial fight, I remember, but it was all because of a Confederate flag versus a Malcolm X T-shirt, and big misunderstanding. By the end of that year, two kids that were fighting, we wound up having a big party, and if I remember right, we might have beat Clearwater or something for the first time. So it was like a lot of stuff, in sports, religion, and in the military, America does a good job of coming together, for a cause. What we struggle at is on the political base, of trying to, just make that political, that government unit, diverse to what we need it to be to get the wheels churning. You know what I mean? And once we are able to take those like just regular human concepts and apply them to, government, I think things will definitely move a little bit better. But on for my son, so I look at my oldest kid, who is in high school right now, graduating this past year, where he dealt with less racial issues that I did. So I know that the time is turning. These few little people that are still hanging around creating turmoil, it's almost like it's that last, fight for, for it. And I get it, but at the same time, we have to move on. And it's just a mindset. It's just slowly taking its course. And I think as I'm we are teaching our kids the future is just going to be that much better, and America's really going to be awesome going forward.
so you mentioned government. So I mean, you've been attending virtually, right?
Yeah, yeah,
These commission
yeah,
meetings
yeah,
since the last couple. Um, and one of the things that's going to be on Monday night's agenda is the Diversity Advisory Board that came out of earlier discussions, even before the Black
yeah,
Lives Matter signs, right? So today I got the agenda, and there were some 25 applicants already.
yeah,
I've been told by the city that's another 12 or 13 that come in since then, and
yeah.
they'll be taking them all the way up to Monday. So part of me, I'm really encouraged by that, and I went through, and a good number of them are black. Of course, it's diversity board, so you need all kinds of diversity,
Right.
but it definitely seems encouraging to me that there's that many people interested in serving on that committee. But even more than that, the number of folks who have checked other committees that they're happy to serve on, because
That's
there's
the
only going to be
important part.
6 or 7 on this diversity committee, but there's all kinds of other ways for folks to get involved in our government and have that change, right? So,
Right.
and you were one of them that applied, and I think you checked all the
Every
boxes,
single
right?
one of them.
So,
Yeah.
so you'll help however you can, right?
Right.
So, what are your expectations specifically for the advisory board, and what you hope it, it's going to mean for our community?
Well, I'm hoping that it's for one, um, that this committee is going to find a way to, more than anything, let's I would say, engage. all people in the community is the first goal. Let's engage everybody in whatever we do town wise, engage them in the community. Secondly, I think there needs to be either some town hall forums on how do we deal with some of these cultural differences, race relations, and going forward. And um, we don't know the methods. Same thing like this COVID protocol. The government doesn't know, so he's not going to roll down anything for us. I mean, we got to figure this out citizen-wise and do it. Our lead, we can't really put it on the commission board, but I'm hoping this diversity board can engage with all the people in the community and find a way to take that what they've learned and studied from the community and find that engagement and present it to the city. That's the biggest movement. I mean, right now dealing with this COVID deal, I mean we're missing third Fridays and we're missing some of these and this is the time. Right now with all of this division, you almost need a party to break it up just to say, man, I'm sorry, and we move forward. But we have a problem, but we have awareness and we got dialogue, so I'm happy about that.
Because we talked about that too. I mean, if it wasn't for COVID, I think we would just plan some big old potluck, right? Maybe over here off of Elm or something,
right?
And just get folks together and hopefully, just like us, who didn't know each other, sit down and just get to know each other,
right?
Don't even talk about race, but just get to know somebody, right? But it's so hard to do that with COVID now.
Right.
So I think that's the challenge I have is that, white friends of mine have reached out and say, hey, I want to help, but I don't know how, right?
Right.
And I'm the same way too. I mean, we figured out, this. I mean, this is what I came up with, but I don't know whether we have any advice for folks that want to have these conversations and maybe not know folks, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. How do we get them together? Yeah. You know what I mean? I think it's just whoever's listening in on this, it's the willingness. Are you being willing enough to go and grab somebody who's on the fence and not too sure, and pull them in and have just a conversation about it. And the good part of, and this is what people need to understand about conversation. You don't have to agree.
Right.
Just because I'm saying I'm feeling this way is like, well, wow, man, he feels that way. You take it all in, but most of the thing is listening. But we're so quick to listen, but then come up with a notion of the reason why that's bad, and that's not necessary. That's not what this is about. That's not going to fix the problem. So let's listen, be open mind to it, and think on it. You might realize that, oh man, I was missing that the whole time, and those are.
Well, we're also in these last couple of months. Everybody's been angry about everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and we're all worried about our health, we're worried about our finances, and so I get it. And then we're locked at home for so much time, so we're watching TV news, and that's just getting us amped up, right? So that's what bothered me about Facebook's gotten worse now, right? So, and again, Megan and I have accepted responsibility for not stepping in and doing a better job on Strong with that. But I guess what bothers me is we keep asking people to be adults, right? I'm like,
right.
It seems like it's getting harder for people to be adults now. And what I mean by that is everybody seems to be trying to win an argument, right? Yeah. And no one seems to be wanting to listen to a conversation or offer alternatives, right? So, I mean, we saw that with the whole BML signs thing, right? I mean, there were
like, man,
800, 1,000 comments, not just on Strong, but other places.
I know
you've read them all, too, right?
I read them all,
And sadly, not a lot of them were helpful.
No.
I mean, whether you agreed with it or not, they weren't moving the story forward, right? They were
very divisive, and everybody put the flag in the ground, and I'm going to stand by. And I get it. But what's more organic or what's more beneficial is this engagement, these conversations. You can be a monster on social media, but can you actually come out and be a monster in somebody's faces was totally different, and that's hard.
Or in somebody's neighborhood.
Or somebody's neighborhood. Yeah, that's hard. You know what I mean? So it's I mean, like I said, the dialogue's there, Scott, and I'm just open, and I'm glad that our community, this is what makes us. Yeah, we had some bad ones, but like I said, we had a lot of good people that wants to show what Safety Harbor really is made of, and I just don't think all the ugliness that we see or that we were hearing about is true. I know people really want to come in and do something about it and show that, hey man, our community is top notch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Do we have any questions?
I'm calling for them, not yet.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Let's see. What else did we have? What else did you have on your sheet there?
well, I'm all out because we went through everything that
Well, no.
we
Okay.
planned.
I got one thing left, so we'll see. And one of the things is it's finding somebody to have this conversation with first. We've already said that that's difficult, right?
Yeah.
But then to have the conversation seems to be difficult too, right? Because we talked about how some issues are already hard, like COVID.
Yeah.
There's a split there. The conversation's already difficult. We're in a presidential election this year. Who you're voting for? That's always going to be hard, right? For me, I think what makes the conversation about race so much harder is choosing the right words.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You might have the right sentiment in your heart, but not use. And I don't want to say the right words. Because it depends on who you're talking to, right?
Yeah.
Because those words mean different things to different people, right?
Sometimes, Scott, I think if you can't desensitize it too much. If you desensitize it too much, then okay, now we're just watering it down. You know what I mean?
And not making any change.
You almost gotta, gut punch somebody, and then, but wait, punch them, but see how they reply back. You know what I mean? And then I think that's how you kind of and then you just feed off of that. But I think desensitizing the questions or the conversations really is not uh, the issue. You know what I mean? I think if you go at it and you just face it, head first and dive in, but at the same time, this person has to be open. Like I said, it's not an argument. We're just having a discussion. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but at least listen.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Tampa Bay Times had an article this week too on the front page that talked about how hard it is for these conversations to happen in the same household, right? Sometimes the generation between parents and kids or children or even children and grandparents, right, is so different that those conversations go horribly, right?
Right.
Even like in a black household or a white household, I mean, you're not even like we are right now. I mean, so those generations make it difficult,
right?
It certainly seems that's from what I've learned about this community over the generations and generations, going back to when you couldn't walk down Main Street, right? I mean, there was a time in our city like that, right? So I could see somebody who remembers that having a very different view of somebody like your son who plays basketball, and doesn't know anything about this.
Exactly.
Right? So, did you have something, Laura?
What needs to happen for Lewis to feel welcome in downtown?
That's a good question.
Man, that is an awesome question. To be honest with you, I'm actually welcome downtown. I was raised to be culturally diverse. I grew up not only in Safety Harbor. Like I said, my grandfather, he had a home in Naples, Marco Island. So I grew up around rich white kids. I've been on a regatta. I'm probably not the problem. It's the others. And like I said, I don't do this for. I'm not speaking for myself. When I speak for people of color and my family, my kid. Like I said, it's more for the future and of our city and just engaging them and being welcome when they come downtown. But for me, like I said, with some of the friends I'm meeting now, Scott and Megan's and your Matt Spores and all of that. But yeah, I mean, I feel pretty welcome downtown at Point.
So let me ask you this: what's the reaction in Lincoln Highlands when white folks show up? And I'll give you an example. Like, Eric does the great barbecue every once in a while, right? And I went down there last month and got some. And when I got there, it was probably 50-50 white and black, right? I was a little
Mm-hmm.
surprised at
Yeah.
how many white folks were there.
Right.
Is that something welcomed,
It's,
or is that something
I
like
would
people
say
feel
very,
like?
very welcome, but at the same time, it's eye opening. It's almost like a question mark. Like, okay, why are these
What are they
people
doing here, right?
here? But then, then you kind of, oh yeah, it's Eric, and that's the thing. And like I said, we have not only myself, Eric Davis, Carmen London. There's 100 other people inside this community that are great people to meet, to know. Eric's been working for the city probably over 20 some years. His family's been here, same thing, 70, 80 years plus. So there's good people here. I mean, but that feeling, it's the same thing you would do if I'm going downtown and it's one of me.
Yeah,
You know
right.
what I mean? It's like, why is he in Barfly? To have a drink with you, cheers. So, but that's me, you know what I mean. And like I said, I was a bit outgoing. I mentor kids. I've tasted liberty. I've tasted what it's like to not be judged by your skin tone. So I've been to Canada. I've been to Sweden. I've been to Germany. I've been to some of these other countries, and I share this with my kids. I share this with my team. But at the same time, I don't feel like I should have to take my kid all the way to Sweden in order for him to feel what liberty was supposed to feel, or just to be equal, or just to be wholeheartedly loved and not judged upon your skin. Um, and that's it. I mean, this is America. We built, there's certain words in our Constitution that allows me, or we say that all men are created equal. All I'm asking is that we just stand by those values and make it, what it really is. That's the main thing, and that's why I was so willing to read the Constitution because, hey, man, I support it. Now make me feel, now not only me, just let's engage the community, and that's what it's all about. I'm not asking us to go out and engage, different cities or anything like that. It all starts right here in Safety Harbor, and I know with people like Scott and everybody that showed up tonight that weekend, it can be fixed. It's just dialogue.
Okay, this one's a long one. I still hear so many people comment that they will not watch pro sports anymore for players kneeling during the anthem. I don't think that these folks will ever accept that kneeling is not about disrespecting the flag. My concern is that it continues to be such a polarizing event for our country. Any ideas at all on how to educate people about what this is really about?
Well, let me start with this because, and I can't really answer the question, but it was powerful to me that one of my white friends during these last couple of weeks, he doesn't live in Safety Harbor, lives elsewhere, so it's not our issue. But he actually did a really powerful post where he said, "I'm sorry, Colin Kaepernick." He's like, "I get it now.
Right.
I didn't get it before. I hated that you were shoving it down my throat on Sunday. I didn't want to hear it then, but now I understand that I should have listened to you then." So I that's one anecdote, right? So, but it got a lot of feedback and comments that I think other folks are realizing that. So I think there's a little bit of positive direction on that, and maybe you have an idea on where
And
we
here's
take
the
it
deal.
next.
I mean, when it comes to the protest has always been ugly for America. I mean, you think about the woman burning a bra. You think about, Rosa Parks sitting on sitting in the front of the bus. That was so gruesome. Some of the sit-ins, walking to Selma. All protest was always ugly. But you look back now on Selma, and it was like one of the greatest things we've done. And had we not done that, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I'm thinking that's similar to now. I mean, salute to Kaepernick. And yeah, it never had anything with disrespecting our military. And I think he said that all the time. He bleeds red, white, and blue 100%. But he was just saying that the values that America stands on. And he just did it in a different type of protest of taking a knee. Yeah, sports. We all look at it, and for me, I love that sports always kind of took a political stance because it was most magnified and everyone can see it. For me, one of my favorites was Muhammad Ali. You know, and it was because the way that he carried himself. He never needed security. His love and his genuine, character of a person was enough that, hey, people respect him enough, just, to show love. And he stood on some grounds politically wise. I think it hurt him. But at the same time, look at his legend, his story now. It's just that much stronger. And I think same thing's gonna happen with Kaepernick. I mentioned this before to my financial officer 3 years ago. She was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he's kneeling, he's doing all." It's like I'm like, Don, relax. I said at the end, he's gonna be viewed as Rosa Parks, and we had a beautiful conversation. Back when I did my prayer visual, and she apologized. She's like, "Lou, I am so sorry." And that's been the other thing. People have just been so open to conversation and wondering, well, how can we help and how can we engage? And I think that's the most beautiful part.
Anything else?
We have something that could warrant discussion. That's not really a question. You want to cover it in 3 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. Hoping the city's diversity committee focuses on local issues. It's not the committee's mandate to solve national problems. Focusing on local issues will make the committee much more effective, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
I agree with that 100%. It's never been about national politics. It's always been about local engagement. And I'm still preaching that ever since May. It's about unity. This isn't about being divisive. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, the issues are related, right? I think the stark difference is, um, in bigger cities you have bigger problems, you have bigger populations, so things seem magnified there where you're a small town. We want to believe that this is a Mayberry town, right? So, but the issues are intertwined. But I think the comment was right in the fact that if we address first what the issues are here,
Locally.
you actually kind of help address those other issues,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, I've always tried to do what I could in Safety Harbor to make us kind of like a leader in whatever it is, because I always want people around the country to say, hey, look at what Safety Harbor's doing. They're doing it the right way, right? So I do think there's an opportunity here that in addressing the concerns that the black community has here, and getting those folks downtown, getting them involved with these government boards and doing things. If we can accomplish that, which is what we're trying to do, then we're also accomplishing those other issues too, right?
Yes,
I imagine the concern is getting bogged down in a fight over what Black Lives Matter means, which is what we've seen. And that may not be the most productive way to start this, but I think if we solve the issues that we've started talking about here tonight, then it's going to have an effect somehow down the line. So I don't think they're mutually exclusive, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I definitely look forward to talking more. The other thing, what me and you had mentioned earlier, I actually had people willing how do I get on the next one? So I definitely say reach out to me and Scott. If you're willing to take a step of courage and get up here and have these conversations. It doesn't necessarily have to be Facebook Live.
Zoom,
we can Zoom, or we can just meet at a park and practice some social distancing. But
play some basketball,
right?
I mean,
play
sports
some basketball.
Have always helped, right?
Absolutely.
Dodgeball.
You might want to hit me with something. I don't know, but the feeling's mutual,
But yeah, we talked. I mean, tonight we asked you to listen to us, and then we discussed that it's our turn to listen to you, right? And we'll see what the feedback has been, who reaches out to us, who wants to be part of it, and that next step, because I know we're not stopping, right? We're going to keep doing some stuff. That our next step is going to be molded based on whatever you guys tell us you want us to do, whatever you want to be a part of. That's the big thing, right?
Absolutely.
It's getting you off the couch and off behind the keyboard and getting you out and actually having these conversations,
and having fun,
moving it forward.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lewis.
I appreciate it, brother.
It's been fun, and I know we're going to keep chatting. And thank you all for tuning in.
Yes.
And if you have friends that missed it, or if you tuned in late, go to Safety Harbor Strong and click on the video link, and you'll be able to watch it. You'll be able to share it with folks. So please, if you enjoyed it tonight, if it was helpful, please continue to share it so other folks can see it. Right?
Right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.